International Media TV, television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
We have this wonderful roundtable that is about to take place, and this will be the last of our presentations here during the lunch time frame. And we thank you again for just indulging us and allowing us to pack so much into this conference. And as we prepare for our moderator to come, as well as this phenomenal panel, I do want to make mention of this particular book. The author is our moderator today. This is a phenomenal piece. I'm just looking forward to enjoying this on my next flight, because this is the kind of reading that I think all of us need to be a part of. Are We Better Off? Race, Obama, and Public Policy, written by none other than our moderator for this special panel with our HBCU presidents, chairwoman of the board for the Push for Excellence, as well as the former president of Bennett College. Would you kindly give a rainbow push welcome to none other than Dr. Julianne Malveaux? Would you put your hands together and welcome Dr. Malveaux as she comes? Phenomenal woman extraordinaire.
Thank you, Rev. You got me.
Bless you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you so very much, Angela Rye, for leading that wonderful conversation with Reverend Jackson and Barbara Lee. And of course, our time is limited, so without further ado, I'm simply going to ask the panelists to please come up. And I want to say a couple of things as they come up. Y'all sit anywhere you want. Okay. Like there are a lot of options. Just have a seat. But first of all, I want to thank Reverend Jackson for this. It really is, I hope that people are doing what he's asked, that we're tweeting, that we're writing about this, because this is an opportunity. I was very taken by the conversation this morning when the CEO at Intel talked about unconscious bias. I love it when we find new words for the same old stuff. See, when the black unemployment rate is twice the overall unemployment rate, I think it's nice to call it unconscious bias. There's something economists called structural discrimination. But I ain't mad at nobody. If unconscious bias is what helps you fix it, then we're happy that you're able to fix it. And so we're been very taken by this, but taken by the fact that Reverend Jackson has been one of the only, well, really the only person who's brought this to Silicon Valley, who's raised these issues in the way they need to be raised. And in raising the issues overall, we've been able to focus on something quite particular, which is the extent to which our HBCU graduates, phenomenal young people who come well prepared, the HBCUs who do much of the heavy lifting in higher education, we represent roughly 2% of the nation's four-year colleges, maybe 2.5. Mickey, you're a better economist than I am, so you go round for me. But roughly 2%, but still 18 to 20% of the graduates. And so we do the heavy lifting. You can't find black students if you choose not to recruit at HBCUs. And so Reverend Jackson, raising the questions about participation and employment, has also implicitly raised the questions about what the role is for HBCUs in Silicon Valley. And in raising that question and providing an opportunity like this, he's also allowed us to have this public conversation with all of you about that role. Now, this is a two-part conversation. This is still lunch. You know, we like to do everything at one time at Rainbow. We are multitasking supermen and women, and we like to get it all done. So we have a few minutes, maybe 45, to have part one of this conversation. And then we have part two, which is going to be a workshop. So we hope that some of you will stay around and come back for the workshop. But in part one, I want all of you in this room to have at least one takeaway. And that takeaway is that you, I don't care whether you are a CEO, whether you're an HR person, that you want to do something with HBCUs. That when you leave out of here, you say, there is something that my company, be it large or small, can do with HBCUs. And I want each of you to look at these folks on this panel, especially my presidents and presidents' representatives, and think, who do I need to give my business card to because I want this person to follow up with me. So I want you all to leave out of here excited about what you learn about HBCUs. And so I'm going to introduce folks quickly. We're going to try to have a conversation, but I want you to learn about what these folks are doing, and they're doing phenomenal things. And I have to tell you from experience that being an HBCU president ain't no crystal stair. We work like government mules, and you know what a government mule is. They work you till you about to die, and then they buy a new one. Am I out of order, Mickey? But in any case, we work very hard, but it's because we care so very much. Because we see our backs as the bridges of which our young people walk across. And so just very quickly, Dr. Mickey Burnim is the 6th president of Bowie State University. It's in Bowie, Maryland. It's near Baltimore. And he has more than 30 years of experience in higher education, previously chancellor at Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina, and all kind of other extremely distinguished experience. Dr. David Wilson is kicking hind parts. Kicking hind parts at Morgan State University. He travels the world with the governor of Maryland to try to find jobs for our young people. Come on. He does all kinds. He's making embarrassed faces, but he's not embarrassed. I mean, if we were someplace else, he'd put his chest out and say, yeah, I did. But in any case, he is doing just great and phenomenal work, and we are proud of him, and he's going to tell us some things about Morgan that I think are going to make some of you just wonder about some of the things that we don't get enough information about. See, I think HBCUs get a bad rap, but I also think we don't toot our own horns enough. I think there's an HBCU story that can be told, and we're going to tell it. Now, I am looking for Miss Daisy, who is in here, I know, from Google, who is HR staffing manager. Have I got it correct?
Google head of diversity staffing.
Google head of diversity staffing. Okay, that's important enough for me to apologize and say it again. Google head of diversity staffing, and somehow you missed my binder. I apologize. And then we have our sister here from Intel, who her boss gave her high props this morning when he spoke and talked about unconscious bias and a number of other things. I have to give, when I mention it, I'm not mentioning it to be snarly. I am capable of doing that, but I'm mentioning it because your CEO got it better than many CEOs that I've ever heard. I mean, he threw it down. He also promised that they are not going to deliver their diversity numbers just once a year, but twice a year. In addition, yep, that's worth an applause. That's called, progress reports. In addition, they will be publishing salary information. Salary information, and this is the important information. I did some calculation last week. April 12th was the Equal Pay Day for women. Y'all remember that? Equal Pay Day for women. But for black women, Equal Pay Day does not come until August 1st. So black women have to work another few months to get equal pay. And for Latina women, it does not come until November 1st. Until November 1st. And so to get that data on wages, hopefully by race and gender, and hopefully you and I can talk about it, but by race and gender, will let us know literally how much further we have to go. Because as far now, we have someone here. It's exciting to have her here for, well, I can't tell you all the number of reasons because it's a lot. But she is just a star at Apple. Denise Young-Smith, Vice President of Worldwide Human Resources. She is the architect with Johnnie Taylor, who's somewhere in the room. Johnnie, put your hand up in the air, of a partnership between the Thurgood Marshall Fund and Apple. She also is a proud graduate of Grambling University. A proud graduate of Grambling University. So when people want to know where do HBCU graduates work, if you're Denise Young-Smith, you are then the Vice President of Worldwide Human Resources at Apple. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Now we have a brother that I just had the opportunity of meeting, who I know is going to add quite a bit to our panel, if I can find his bio. Okay. Brother man, do me a favor. I am not underprepared. I'm just, here you are. I just can't see. No, it's like this, y'all. I had surgery on one of my eyes so I can halfway see. So when you see me doing this, that means one eye is working, the other one ain't. Craig Campbell is a talent acquisition director for Microsoft's Windows Devices Group. Again, let me repeat that. Craig Campbell, talent acquisition director for Microsoft Windows Devices Group. More than 15 years worth of experience, plenty to say, has been at many of these companies. And so not only do we expect to hear a lot from him, but I'm going to give you a personal challenge to find you a brother, a young brother from an HBCU, and to be his personal mentor. Looking at your background, I think that you can do that. Give him a round of applause because he agreed. And I think there are at least 300 people here, so you don't make promises in front of 300 people, I don't think, unless you plan to keep them. Now, Dr. Lesia Crumpton-Young is all kind of stuff. Her bio reads about 5 pages, and she describes herself as engineer, academician, author, entrepreneur, executive coach, but in the capacity today, she is representing her president, the president of Tennessee State University, and she is the vice president of development there, along with a number of other titles. What she should know, what your president should know, is that you represent her ably, and that we are happy that you are here to represent her. And then last but certainly not least, we have Dr. John Glover, who is the Vice President of Development. He says interim, but he's been there a while. Vice President of Development at Morehouse College. And you know what they say about Morehouse? You can always tell a Morehouse man, but you can't tell him much. However, Dr. Glover's job in representing his president, Dr. John Sylvanus Wilson, is to tell us a bit about Morehouse, so we expect we'll be hearing from him. And so give the whole panel a round of applause and thank you. You know, the way that I frame this is that the colleges have something that the companies need, raw talent. And the companies have something that the colleges need, opportunities for students and opportunities for partnerships. But I want to start with the story here from Denise Young-Smith, because she has a story to tell about how she made the transition from a Grambling to an Apple, about what made her decide that seeking out Johnnie Taylor and creating a partnership made sense, and about one takeaway for some of your colleagues about how they can do what it is that you've done, even given the spirit of experimentation that you brought to this project. Denise.
Can you hear me? Great. Thank you, Dr. Malveaux. Thank you, panelists, for speaking on this topic. Reverend Jackson and Congresswoman Lee talked about the profitability imperative, but I want to speak to the innovation imperative, and that innovation and the ability to innovate is now and will continue to be, and for the future is probably going to be more important than it's ever been in the history of mankind. And our young people are brilliant innovators. Our HBCU talent are brilliant innovators. And they are culturally agile, they are resilient, they are all of the attributes and constructs of innovation they possess. I know this because I am a product of a historically black college and university. And it's important. I've started to tag our HBCUs as America's HBCUs because that's an important component of this in terms of managing perceptions. But the story is that there is amazing talent, and as the chief talent officer, the person responsible for understanding talent for one of the world's most innovative and most admired companies, for me it was a natural roadmap. It was a natural journey because I understood the history of our HBCUs when we were not able to be educated anywhere else. That resilience and that determination got us through. Now, when we have options, that determination and that resilience is still sustaining us, and it's sustaining us in new ways. There is a success formula, and I've talked to Dr. Wilson and the Morehouse team. I've talked to others about this. There is a success formula that our HBCUs have. And Johnnie and I talk about this all the time, and we talk about this with the students. There is something uniquely special about how we educate at our HBCUs. And that resilience that we garner at our HBCUs and what is required to innovate in today's society, those two constructs match. And so I would encourage all of my technology partners here to pay attention to that. And as you have your innovation needs and requirements, I would encourage you to understand that that is a place where the faculty, the environment, the culture, the cultural agility, they know and understand innovation.
Thank you so much. I want to move to Dr. Wilson. You've talked quite a bit about not only Morgan, but what HBCUs do in terms of creating technology graduates, especially among women, but in general, the disproportionate work we do. Just say a bit about that. We've talked about it. I'd like the audience to know just some of that.
I certainly will. David Wilson, president of Morgan State University in Baltimore. Morgan is an institution of 8,000 students. We are a major research university. And as Dr. Malveaux indicated, we feel that we have an incredibly strong value proposition for this nation. We are number one in the United States in producing black electrical engineers. We are number one in producing black civil engineers. We're number one in producing black industrial engineers. And we're number 3 in the United States in producing black engineers in all fields. North Carolina A&T University, Reverend Jackson's undergraduate alma mater, is number 1 in the United States. Georgia Tech is number 2, and Morgan State University is number 3. Now, the National Science Foundation conducted a study just last year looking at every single black person in the United States with a PhD in engineering between 2007 and 2012. And they wanted to know, where did you get your undergraduate degree? Every single black person. And that study revealed that Morgan State University, number 2 in the nation amongst all black males in the United States with PhDs in engineering between that time period, and number 1 in terms of black females. Indeed, in our School of Engineering at Morgan, 46% of the students are female. And I can go on and on about this strong value proposition. About 30% or so of our students are in STEM fields. The great majority of them go on to graduate school. And so in this particular segment, I think we're just going to give you a thumbnail kind of peep, if you will, into our institutions. But let me just conclude this section by just being a little bit personal, only for about a minute and a half. I did my undergraduate degree at Tuskegee University, and then I went on to Harvard, and I got a master's from Harvard, and I got my doctorate from Harvard. And along the way, I was the vice provost at Rutgers University. I was the vice president at Auburn University for 11 years, and I came to Morgan State. I'm in my 7th year as president of Morgan, from the University of Wisconsin, where I was chancellor out there overseeing 13 campuses. And I can truly say to you that in my 6th year at Morgan, in the 6 years that I've been at Morgan, every single day I see students on our campus who are just absolutely phenomenal. They're at the top of their game. Denise, they are the innovators. We have innovative clubs where students have formed on campus around innovation and entrepreneurship. They come out to Stanford University out here to get training and come back, and I tell you, that particular culture has taken root on the campus. But I just wanted to give you context because I know from having been on all of those other campuses, from the Ivy League across the Big Ten and all the other institutions, the talent that I've seen during my career and the talent that I'm seeing at Morgan every single day is just as competitive, if not more, than that talent I have seen across those institutions.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I want to go down to the end to talk to my brother from Morehouse College. As you listen to your colleagues talk about those special, or we listen to Dr. Wilson talk about some of the special opportunities that are being provided at Morgan, what do you offer as we listen, as we talk to our technology partners for Morehouse? What things can you share that are special to Morehouse in this context?
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to pick up where my friend and colleague, Dr. Wilson, left off. Morehouse College is the #1 baccalaureate origin for black males who receive a PhD in science and engineering, the physical sciences, the natural sciences, humanities and education, the social sciences, and the #1 producer of minorities in physics. And I say that in part to piggyback on everything you've heard over the last 40 minutes, which is that our institutions are here not to ask for handouts, but to compete, to support our nation's agenda in producing some of the world's best talent. So the next time you pick up your iPhone, I need you to think about Denise Young-Smith. And this evening when you board your red eye back to the East Coast and you're sitting on a Boeing 747 or 27, I need you to think about Ted Colbert, who is the CIO of Boeing and the Vice President of Technology. And when you go through TSA this evening or tomorrow, I need you to think about Jay Johnson, who's the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, yes, those gentlemen finished Morehouse, but I'm not here to promote Morehouse exclusively, but just to suggest that our institutions produce talent. Much of that talent happens to be clothed in the skin that you see in this room, but talent nonetheless. And very, very quickly, Julianne hit on a note that I think is very, very important, and it was supported by Dr. Wilson. We don't do this by accident, by chance, or happenstance. We do it using the ingredients of hard work, and in each instance, a formula. At Morehouse, it's called passion plus gifts, which I won't go into in detail now, but we'll hopefully have an opportunity to express later. So I hope I've answered your question, Dr. Malveaux. It's to share with you that I need you to think broadly about our institutions. And the second thing I need you to do is to send your sons and daughters to our schools and to encourage your friends, your sorors, your ballet partners, etc., to send your loved ones to us. And I trust you. We will care for them and report them back to you, talented, capable, and wanting to compete in our world.
Thank you, Dr. Glover. Mickey Burnim, you have been doing some very innovative things there at Bowie, and you've gotten lots of attention for them. I don't want to rain on your parade. I want you to tell us a bit about some of those things you've been doing that have just garnered so much support.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be part of this panel, and I will begin by telling you that Bowie State University is about halfway between Baltimore, as was pointed out earlier, and Washington, D.C. Last year, we celebrated our sesquicentennial, 150 years of providing educational services to people of Maryland and of that region. And about 3 years ago, we decided as a university to establish something that we call the Education Innovation Initiative, which we designated our first signature program. The intent of the program is to focus on the STEAM disciplines and thereby to create a pathway beginning with pre-K but going all the way through the doctorate. We offer a doctoral degree in computer science, but a pathway which would prepare more people for participation in STEAM at all levels. This would serve the HR, or the human resource needs, the human capital needs for tech companies and others in our country and our world, but it would also provide us the vehicle to improve student outcomes on our campus. We want to engage our students in a richer way so that the academic experiences that they gather through their programs are supplemented by rich real-world work experiences that will demonstrate to people that they not only have the academic background, but the experience and the know-how and the confidence that comes from actually working on important problems and solving those problems so that they are ready to go to work immediately upon graduation. That's what I'm told people or companies in the tech industry need. And so through this Education Innovation Initiative, we are helping to solve the problems and the challenges that the tech companies face, as well as doing a better job in working with our students.
Great, thank you. Now, Bush hands me this note that says we have a hard stop at 2:45. I'm just telling y'all that because I'm not discriminated against y'all. We will have a part 2, and I'm going to encourage everyone to hang for part 2, but I'm going to ask those who haven't spoken in part 1 to be brief if you can, and if you can't, take it up with Butch. Now, Dr. Lesia, tell us just a bit, and what I'm doing here is having y'all hear from, having my corporate friends hear from our HBCUs, because then I want you all to respond just a bit and talk a bit about what you see in the models that they're putting up there. So, Lesia, quickly, TSU.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn on my Texas accent since you said we need to do it quickly. My colleagues have talked a lot about our talent, and certainly you know at HBCUs we deliver undergraduate degrees in the high-tech fields, masters, PhDs, which usually people say, really, you grant a PhD in computer science? Yes, in cybersecurity, in bioinformatics, and in a number of areas that are really important. But what I really want to talk about is beyond our talent, there are a number of things that we do at HBCUs that benefit companies and small businesses. So I'm going to quickly run through some of those. First, in terms of joint ventures, we've worked with a few companies to enhance their products and enhance their services and expand their business lines. We've also worked with a number of companies, Rolls-Royce. We have joint patents with them. We have strong research centers of excellence where we've worked with other companies to improve their products and improve upon their patents and some of the other applications. We also can do proprietary work. We can do demonstration centers and facilities. That's one of the things we're doing with Bowie now. We have incubators and innovation centers on our campus to stimulate the growth of small businesses and to ensure that they're successful. We also have the ability to do the mentor-protege programs. Many of the companies, as you try to expand your business lines and your processes, we can work with you and help to enhance that effort. So in addition to talent acquisition being something that we can provide for you, also think about the other ways that you can work with HBCUs to enrich your bottom line as well.
Like Danielle, I'd like you've heard the 4 HBCU presidents or representatives. What do you hear here that would be of use to you at Intel? What would you say to any of these folks about how should they call you? What should they ask you for? What are you prepared to put on the table?
This is great, and I'm glad there's a part 2 because there's a lot of things I think we're really interested in exploring. So I think everybody knows that, last year, Intel committed to reach full representation of underrepresented minorities and women in our workforce by the year 2020. Brian Krasanich, our CEO, and Roz Hudnall, who started the whole thing, put this bold goal forward. And when you put a goal like that out there in the world, you've got to try a lot of things. Last year, we tried $27 million worth of things to invest in our pipeline, investing in Code 2040, Georgia Tech, the National GEM Consortium, the SRC, the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, Oakland Unified Schools. We try to invest for the long term and build strategic partnerships with the sources of talent that we want to recruit from. And that's what I would like to do is let's think about the next thing we could try together to continue that strategy. So that would be my goal for today.
Wonderful. So Craig, I know, first of all, you will be seeing Dr. Wilson and Dr. Burnim afterwards to find your mentee. You might end up with 2 because both of these gentlemen are persuasive. No, proximity is not. But okay, what have you heard from these folks that you can pick up on, and what should they be asking you for other than mentorship?
Sure. Compete was a word that I heard that really resonates with me because I think the learning, I think the education, is proven and respected. I think in the game, application of that knowledge, these technical environments are very dynamic, they're very fast, and being able to put students in an incubation situation and outside of the classroom practical application of what they've learned, we've found is a very good preparation to be successful in some of these organizations. And so those are the things that resonate with me. Anything that we can invest in that would give students very practical applications, simulated scenarios in which they would see how their skills would be applied. I think a second thing that we're seeing as an emerging trend is on the recruiting front, but not recruiting for our organizations, but as we reach back into the high school levels, we're starting to see a very invested effort from the non-HBCU universities going after diverse high school STEM talent and significant investments. So our question was, is there an investment to ensure that the HBCUs remain very competitive against the MITs, the Carnegie Mellons, the Georgia Techs? We're seeing that as an emerging activity, and so that's another area where we've talked about how we can continue to invest in that as well. Great, thank you. Now, Daisy, I saved you for nearly last only because I want to again apologize and formally introduce you as Daisy Auger-Dominguez, which I didn't do before, of course, as a global head of diversity staffing at Google. And what do you hear here that you can pick up on? What would you ask someone to bring to you as a portfolio of asks and other things?
Thank you. This affirms for me the direction that we've taken at Google in the partnerships that we have with HBCUs. I joined Google 9 months ago because I wanted to be part of a company that was creating creative, groundbreaking solutions, and that was really focused on unleashing a new wave of talent. And the Google in Residence initiative that our company started in the fall of 2013, beginning with 1 HBCU, we're at 7 HBCUs now, planning to expand to 10 by the end of this year, is part of that work. But it's not just the 10 HBCUs that we're going to plan to be in and have a Googler in residence to teach not only an intro to computer science course, but as well equip students in the day-to-day career readiness of how to be ready to join companies like ours when they graduate. But it's also the work that our teams are doing in the 62 HBCUs that have computer science degrees, and the work that we're doing to your point about connecting our education and development programs that begin at the high school level, so our CS Edge programs, our CSSI programs, which begin right before you join college, and then the series of development programs that we've built extensively beyond HBCUs, but that we want to make sure that we build into a suite of development programs that can be leveraged at the HBCUs. So I'm extending our teams, and April Curley is here and will be speaking in the second session this afternoon, to engage with us and to really think about how do we partner collectively to help expand these learning programs and these development opportunities for students and that wave of talent that we will be unleashing in the technology sector.
Dr. Malveaux,
Denise, you've got the last words. I'm about to turn it to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because she won't be with us, unfortunately, for part 2, so I just want her to get an opportunity to say something. And so as you make your response or whatever you were going to also say, can you close out by, again, challenging those who are here? What should they have extracted from what our presidents have said, and what can a smaller company, not a Google, not an Apple, not an Intel, what might they do to begin to partner with some of the HBCUs?
Sure. I would say, I think everyone has said it in some varying degree, it's important to understand it's not just an ask or a give. This is not a unilateral opportunity. It has to be a partnership. We have an entire staff devoted to the partnership. Thurgood Marshall has an entire team out of their team devoted to the partnership. And we have to learn from it, and we have to continue to iterate and innovate from it. Part part of the components and the constructs of the partnership are engaging with the faculty members. And so the deans of the engineering schools, the deans of the business schools, we want them to also come and have an immersive experience at Apple and in Silicon Valley so that they can understand what is happening now, what is the most current, most relevant technology, business process that I need to make sure that I am taking back to my campus. And in terms of smaller businesses and entrepreneurial enterprises, we have to be able to compete. Everyone has to be able to compete. And I think that the HBCUs provide an amazing opportunity to level the playing field for smaller businesses to upgrade their skill profile to be able to compete in a global marketplace. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for smaller businesses as well as large. And I just want to thank everyone for even listening and paying attention because, you know, HBCUs, America's historically black colleges and universities, are incredibly special. I know Dr. Wilson talked a little bit about his personal experience. I have one. We all have a story, every single one of us, that has taken a journey. You know, it is an incredible journey from that culture and into, you know, if we're in some successful role in some successful position in corporate America. But the one thing that I can say is we never forget. I have never forgotten, and what served me then serves me now. Those fundamental lessons, those people that I will never forget that looked at me in class and held me accountable and said, the class graduating passing grade is 85. Oh, but yours, Miss Young, is 95. And she had no problem with making that exception with me because they understood how to motivate, how to teach, yes, and how to push us through to a point where we could be viable and hold our own as any HBCU student can hold their own anywhere. And I will vouch for that forever.
Denise, thank you so very much. I want to thank all the panelists. Give them a round of applause, please. I want to say to you all that I didn't go to an HBCU. I was a high school put-out, actually, so I don't have a high school diploma, but I do have a doctorate, just for the record. But in any case, I wish I had gone to one. I think I would be a much nicer person. At an HBCU, we assume that you're smart until you prove that you are not. And some of our students will prove they're not. Not many, but there are some. At a PWI, predominantly white institution, they will assume that as a person of color, you're not that smart until you prove that you are. Therefore, Denise shared some data earlier, we'll talk about it in part 2, where the students who come out of HBCUs have a comfort with themselves, a confidence that they don't have. I fight so much because white folks told me I didn't have any sense. And, you know, I had to fight that. But in any case, at an HBCU, I would have been, it's just assumed that you're smart. So we'll talk about that data some more. But I want you all to think about that because that is a takeaway. It's not only, Craig, the whole notion of are we competitive with an MIT, but what does someone with coming out of MIT have that someone coming out of Morgan might lack? I mean, not lack, it's the other way around. Someone at Morgan have that someone at MIT might lack because the person at Morgan has been told time and time and time again, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. The other one's been told, well, you know, maybe you can do it. You're surprisingly bright. You're surprisingly bright. So thank you, presidents. Thank you, corporate partners. And thank you, Reverend Jackson, for this opportunity.
Dr. Burnim, Wilson, and Brown, for you who are here from Apple and Microsoft and the like, you would never know by reading the newspapers or watching TV what you heard from them today. They need the capacity to tell the story. However, you can use your science. We need a booklet. We need something that tells, because we have to convince people that HBCUs make sense and are relevant. We need you to use your resource to help put this in a readable form, please. Thank you, Reverend. While we're talking Prince, let me tell you what Prince did for me one time.
He sent us 50 tickets so I could take Bitter Girls to a Prince concert with them. Now so we went to a Prince concert in Greensboro, me and 50 of my students. Where but at an HBCU would you have the president partying with the students at a Prince concert?